It is the Anfield Wrap. I'm Neil Atkinson, joined by Abigail Rudkin, by Ian Salmon and Adam Melia. And we are in association with Peloton, who are the official digital fitness partner of Liverpool Football Club. And they're teaming up with us, which is very, very kind of them, to show fans how we score together through thousands of workouts, 14 disciplines and 50 incredible instructors in amongst all of that. So far, I've had one instructor and one discipline. I want to be crystal clear. I've yet to spread my wings, but I have massively enjoyed my time on the Peloton bike. I've genuinely really got into it, which is becoming mildly concerning. I like the instructor that I've chosen. Leanne is my future. She is the absolute business, and I've got into it in a big way, so I'm enjoying it absolutely massively. But there's other options as well. There's lots of different instructors. There is scenic content, there's game-inspired options, and there is the option to stream films and television as well whilst you're on there, and they'll let you put your own music on and all of that sort of stuff. So you can get the Peloton app. There's 6 LFC-themed classes, one with Trent Alexander-Arnold, and we'll be doing something. Now, it's going to take a bit of time. I'm not going to make a show of myself, Abigail. I'm not going to make a show of myself. I'm not going to clatter in head first and have been lapped metaphorically by all of our people who love the Anfield Wrap and Peloton at once, but do join us on the whole thing.
Can I say something about this? So I think if you've got your own tunes on, having done a little bit of this,
have you Pelotons?
I haven't Peloton, but I've done spin classes in the past, and I think you might be up to the level where people can join in if you can sing along to your tunes at the same time.
Really?
Because it's very exhausting, isn't it? But if you do it a good few times, then you realise, I can sing along actually to the chorus. Then you're doing well, I think.
What were your tunes, just out of interest, back in the day? Because I'd begin to worry. I'd want the right tune. Like, I can't be going up there if I'm doing this at the same time. Come on.
I've still got a playlist of spin class tunes, because they were just basically ones that I'd only ever hear in spin class and became enjoyable despite the fact that I wouldn't have listened to them before that. So it was like Avicii.
An unbelievable amount of Pitbull. Okay. Adam is indeed Mr. Worldwide. You can connect with us all the way through. You can use the LFC tag on Peloton, Liverpool FC tag on that as well. We will do something, I promise, as we go all the way through when we feel a little bit better. John's away on holiday at the minute. I'm hoping he's going to come back a wreck. He's got nothing in his legs, still be saying. That's what I'm hoping for as we'll go from there. But thank you very much to Peloton for the support. They are the official digital fitness partner of Liverpool Football Club, and we will be staying involved with them all the way through, and do follow on all channels to get more updates as we go all the way through. Normally I start with the game. Adam, I'm going to start with the bigger picture on this one. Normally I put the bigger picture at the end, but it felt like a significant weekend. It felt like the possibility of a significant weekend. I am banging on shows at the minute about away games are hard. There's been 9 of them across this Premier League weekend, and not one of them has been won by the away team over the course of the weekend. That's what we've seen, so we may as well start there. Arsenal and City had away games that you could put a circle around and say were tricky. The idea that neither of them win, in fact that both of them get beat, is obviously a huge boost for Liverpool.
Yes, I think that I can't remember a weekend where everything has gone our way for a really, really long time, and you couldn't have sort of written it really, because I think you'll remember that I did send you a text actually on Saturday morning to say that I think City, based on not many stats, although we've added one on Saturday, I think City are most likely to drop points when they play at the same time as us. So not necessarily 3 p.m. Saturday, could be 2 p.m. Sunday, but I've felt like I've been in the ground when City drop points more than sort of trying to watch them on TV before or afterwards. They seem to pull it round when they've kind of got, I feel like they've kind of got the mental context of what everyone else has done, or they're going first, one or the other. And I feel like they can wobble. Maybe that's just because it's the smaller games that catch City out. I don't know, because they would be the ones where they'd be playing at 3 o'clock. But I said to you that I feel like the 3 p.m. Saturdays where we're playing at the same time is where we can possibly have some interest, have an eyebrow raised ahead of a side eye emoji once they've actually got beat. So yeah, I felt like that was potentially there on the cards. I think I sort of thought that us not winning was also very much on the cards. I didn't really see everything happening, so I thought probably I thought Arsenal might squeak through with it being the 12:30, and then I couldn't kind of see what was going to happen with the later on ones. The way it unfolds is just absolutely incredible, really. And I suppose we'll get kind of a bit more into the detail about how it all happens and in what order maybe a bit later on. But yeah, the wider picture. I mean, the Arsenal-wise, you know that meme of the man smiling and then he's like open-mouthed? That I was that meme when I looked to see the league table afterwards to see how far behind us in third Arsenal were, and it said Nottingham Forest. Honestly, I was that open-mouthed man because I was like happily like, haha, let's see how far behind Arsenal are, and then yeah, so
quite shocking for a 2-horse race, that, isn't it?
I haven't really been looking at the league table that much because, I mean, Everton have been doing a bit better than usual. So yeah, there's been no reason to.
No call to action.
No call to action to look at the league table. So yeah, so I had no clue that Arsenal were going to be leapfrogged by Forest and potentially others this weekend, really. So yeah, their heads seem wrecked, and it was the thing that we speculated may have been potentially going to happen prior to them having any injuries and, you know, falling out with all the refs and all less red cards, this, that and the other. They have had the pressure of the City pressure cooker, whatever you call it, the heavy weight on top of them to make them feel going into this season that being 0-0 was already 1-0 down, that feeling that we know so well. So Arsenal have kind of had that there in the background, sort of like maybe without them realising it, but we realised that they had a bit of a shadow over them. And yeah, I think they are made in a particularly emotional way anyway. The kind of, what's it called, us against the world. I can't think what the term is for that, but they are kind of susceptible to what's been happening, and I think on the post-match pint that I did after the Arsenal game, I was saying that it wasn't a great performance, and they could have beaten us really quite easily in the first half. But they should have beaten us, and you know, not taking us out of the equation. If you look at their next few games, that point, if what we suspect might happen against either Newcastle or Chelsea happens, then that starts to look even better and even more like a sort of self-fulfilling, circle of self-defeating circle or whatever it's called for Arsenal.
Yeah,
sorry, can I just? Do you feel that Arteta has deliberately inculcated this siege mentality, and is therefore
he's hoisted by his own petard?
Yeah, he's actually sabotaged himself by focusing so much on this idea of the whole world hates Arsenal, because he's given that idea to the fan base. The fan base have run to it like to a ridiculous degree.
Yeah, well, people love it, don't they? People love a siege mentality. That's the word. That's the phrase for it. Thanks, Ian. But yeah, I think that there's. It gives with one hand and it takes with the other, that sort of thing, as do so many things. But they've reaped the benefits, they've felt the benefits, but they think they're reaping the whirlwind a little bit at the moment.
My words of caution on Arsenal is worth saying that the underlying numbers of Arsenal for the first 10 games of this season are very similar to the first 10 games of last season. And Arsenal finished that season strongly, well, more accurately, mid that season exceptionally strongly all the way through, and there's still the opportunity for them to do that. Odegaard coming back.
They really seem Odegaardless, I was going to say.
Yeah, no,
it's so clear. It's so clear that everything used to go through him when they were marmalising teams last season. It was everything was going through Odegaard.
Well, I'm going to talk about the numbers on the trends with Arsenal. I'm going to talk about the wider thing with Arsenal on weekend, because there's this comparison that got made a lot with Arsenal with Arteta recently, was that it feels very Mourinho. I actually, this weekend when I was watching Newcastle versus Arsenal, felt it looked very Houllier. And you can draw a couple of comparisons. Everything good going through Saka, everything good going through Owen. Havertz is a little bit Heskey. Mourinho, the new signing's a little bit Haman. And a lot of the time is massive positives. But the Odegaard thing strikes me of Liverpool in that era. Whenever they were lacking a certain player, you'd go, oh my God, they are lacking that player. Yeah. And that's currently where Arsenal find themselves. And I do think that is a live thing. City looking wobbly, Abigail. It's nice. We should not get carried away. It was approximately, give or take, a month around this time last season, City drop points in a 2-1 defeat away at Wolves. They go on and do what they do against the bottom 10 for the rest of the season and go on and win the league title. So no one's getting carried away about Man City dropping points, but it's obviously very good to see.
Obviously, it's very good to see, and it's very exciting to see during the game when I kept checking my phone to see how they were getting on, and the fella in front of me kept turning around going, it's Bournemouth 2-0, and I was getting very excited about that. But I think once it was 1-0 to Bournemouth, I think I was feeling they're going to come back from this, because you know what City are like, it does not matter. You sort of get flashbacks from Villa last game of the season. My dad's
We always will.
I will always get flashbacks of that, and that's what was but not that it's getting to that point already. We're only 10 games in, but like we've said, I am starting to check the table a little bit now. Getting 10 games in, you know, you're thinking we're a quarter of the way there. You're going to start checking the table, and times like this, you want to be seeing them dropping points. But the thing for me was, this season, they haven't been going and blowing away teams the way that they have in previous seasons. And I mean, obviously, they might have a little bit of a defensive hole there without Rodri, obviously Ballon d'Or winner. When you're without the Ballon d'Or winner, you're going to struggle, aren't you? And I think that's probably where we might just pip them. I know that sounds a little bit hasty. I am going in a little bit hasty. I think Arna's Reds might end up going for it. I mean, especially when you've got Arsenal in that position as well. Like I was exactly the same as you. I checked the table. Forest were third, and I was very, very shocked, to be honest. I couldn't believe
the open mouthed man.
Yeah, literally, I was like, hang on, have I been working this all out wrong in my head? To be fair, if we wouldn't have lost to Forest, they wouldn't have been there. But, you know, and maybe that makes it a little bit better, you know, give you a little bit of joy out of that. But going back to City, I think in that game, I was fully expecting them to get a winner. Once I heard that Guardiola got that header, I was thinking, this is it now. They're going to go and maybe even get a winner. You never know with City, but they just didn't do that. You know, they didn't do that, and for the last couple of games they have been struggling. When I've watched them, they've sort of just scrambled over the line for wins in these games, and that's what I'm sort of holding on to. Like you said, Odegaard might come back for Arsenal, but Rodri will be out for a long time for City, so could this be, you know, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself.
I don't think it is to get ahead of yourself. The reason why I was so frustrated, I understood the shift of the manager being a big deal, but the reason why I was frustrated with the general sort of wider discourse in the summer was, I just thought it was a bit ignorant of Liverpool's season last season. You know, last season, there was a piece in The Athletic this morning. It's a good piece. It's sort of like summing up the weekend, but one of the points it makes is, will we finally be in for a genuine title race? And it was a bit like, well, last year there was a genuine title race until mid-April. And then I'd even, you know, give Arsenal the credit of saying they extend it until the end of April. You know, I don't know quite, what does he mean by a genuine title race? Does it mean all the way to the last day with three or four teams involved? Because that's very rarely ever happened. And as I say, the writer who's written it's a good writer. But I think it's sort of forgotten that last season was a title challenging season until you can either say the penalty not given when Doku hits McAllister, you could say United away, Palace home, Goodison and West Ham. But the point being is that takes us all the way into mid-April, you know, and this Liverpool last season were a side that were in transition, that were maturing, but they were still good enough to be there or thereabouts come mid-April. The aim this season is just to add a month. Basically, can we have one more month and not be in around or about, be it?
I've banged on about this ad nauseum across the summer. Until the middle of April, we were on for a quadruple. And we were very definitely on for quadruple. It's not like we had a dream of doing this. We were on for it. The entire team was talking about doing it as a farewell for the manager. And it's United away in the Cup where we blow it and our heads go for the rest of the season. And that's the only reason that we're not in the title race until the last day, because our heads go, because we lose the dream. The second we lost the dream, we lost all momentum for the rest of the season. Up until that point, we'd been talking very convincingly about Liverpool 2.0 and we knew what we had. The fact that we didn't have it for the last month doesn't mean it wasn't there for the previous 6 or 7. We had a team that looked convincingly good enough to win the league. I mean, this season, I'm not sitting here going, we're winning the league in the same way I've done for probably the last 5 seasons on the bounce. But I've said all along, I think we're finishing in the top 2 because I think we were that good. I think that is the team that we had last season. It's the squad we had last season. It's the options we had last season. And they haven't gone away. What has gone away is the effect of losing the quadruple. That's not there anymore. But we have
and the emotional drain of the manager leaving.
The emotional drain of the manager. So again,
and the injuries. The huge number of injuries.
Huge number of injuries. Although I believe legally you are only allowed to say that Arsenal get injuries nowadays. So it's... I
know, I feel sorry for City, by the way. We're clearly picking lads who aren't fit. And everyone's just gone, nah.
Well, City, I think it was the cross for the Guardiola header. I looked at it on Match of the Day. I was kind of like, I'm not entirely sure who that is.
Yeah, who are these lads?
Yeah, and it's it's Enrico Lewis is getting lots of games all of a sudden, isn't he? So and the fact that Guardiola himself is now their left back, it's a very weird situation. But
second highest scorer,
scoring every game.
That's very odd,
brilliant.
And cracking goals as well.
It's the new Steve Nicol.
So he's got a career in 30 years' time slagging off City on American media. So I love Steve Nicol. He was brilliant. We're in it. We are in it, and I think we're in a weird situation where I think at the moment we look like we can do it, but I'm not sure we look convincing yet. And I don't think the convincing's far away, because people, there are Arsenal fans online talking about the fact that they're happier to be 5 points behind City than 7 points behind us, because they think they can make the 7 points behind us or be easier than. No, that's not how it works. That's not how maths works for a start. 5 is always easier than 7. But they've gone. They as a team have just, they've blown at the moment. But as you said, their underlying figures aren't that bad. This time last season, City were having a disastrous start to the season. Or certainly for the first month, they looked disastrous. And then they just became City. So it's like Abby, I was very much, they've scored 1, they're going to score another 2. But when Bournemouth scored, it was like, well, that's just going to annoy them, isn't it? It's just, they're just going to start playing football now. But no, it's glorious.
All right, moving along. Liverpool 2, Brighton Hove Albion 1. Abby, it was a lifetime of 2 halves, not even a game of 2 halves. It was such a poor first half performance. I think on the whole, everyone's very positive about the new manager. There's been so much to be positive about. It's hard not to be. That's probably the worst 45 minutes of football under him so far. I thought that first half against Brighton, worse than Ipswich's first half, worse than both halves against Forest. I thought Liverpool were so poor. You've got to give credit to Brighton. I thought they were ever so good.
Yeah, that was what I was sort of thinking. Are we rubbish here, or are Brighton just really good? And I think the thing was, we were rubbish at times, and Brighton are that good of a team that they were just able to exploit all those mistakes. I mean, from where I was sat in Upper Annie, I could just see the space that we were just leaving in that midfield was just absolutely massive. I'd say the problem probably did come from the midfield. I think when you think Gravenberch probably had too much to do, it felt like sometimes he was trying to cover a bit for McAllister and Szoboszlai. I think, I'm sure we'll come on to it, but I'm probably have beef with Szoboszlai at the minute. I just feel like he is the weak link out of that midfield, and the thing for me is he just takes too long to think about what he's going to do with the ball. I think I've had a problem with Curtis Jones with this in seasons past, and he's sort of eyeing that out of his game now. You see for Salah's goal, you see Curtis looks up straight away and sees where he's going to pass that ball, and I think Szoboszlai doesn't have that. I think he's lacking that, and I think McAllister did the same thing at times, where he'd literally just pass it into nowhere, or they'd overthink it, they'd be on the ball 3-4 seconds too long. That was sort of my take on it, I think.
Do you think that, though, Abby, could have been Brighton's organisation? I think for McAllister especially, I think he was looking up at times and all he could do was see Brighton shirts. Well, yeah. So then he was turning back around. I thought because they looked so tightly organised and we hadn't quite worked out where to position in the midfield in that period, I think that's... And this is where it's difficult, isn't it, to work out, hang on, were Brighton just really good for the period and had a really good plan? Or was it us? I do think all 3 midfielders arguably have their poorest 45 minutes of the season as well. So, it's hard to say, isn't it? It's chicken and egg. Is it Brighton making it so hard for them the malfunction, or were they just going to malfunction anyway?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I don't know if we didn't get the game plan right. Maybe we weren't expecting them to come out like that. You could see there was just confusion in the midfield, and none of the players knew where to pass it at all. And I do think Gravenberch just looked as though he was trying to cover for them all. To be honest, I think we were losing duels as well, and it'd be times where I thought we were going on the attack, and then Szoboszlai just literally passed it to a Brighton player, because literally, like you've said, all he could see was Brighton shit, so it was a bit of a hit and hope. And then behind you, you've got Trent. Great, he was good defensively, to be fair to him, which is what he normally gets criticised on, but his passing was off completely, and I just feel as though that's where we struggled the most. Corners from Trent were hitting the first man, and that was it, so we weren't even capitalising.
The first man on the chest.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was it, really.
There is the midfield strugglers, Adam. I do think that all 3 of them do find it hard for 45 to 60. I think Gravenberch comes out second half is brighter. I think McAllister's a little brighter. I think Szoboszlai lashes himself in more, not just one particular tackle, but I think the game's not going the way he'd like for him, but what he does is he becomes wholehearted second half, and that makes a big difference and just runs a bit more direct. I've got a couple of questions on that. Firstly, I think you could just do with a bit more from Szoboszlai to offset this when it isn't going so well for him from time to time, either in front of goal in the round or something else, maybe direct running with the ball. And I do just have a couple of questions about McAllister and his fitness in this spell.
I was going to say the same. I feel like the times when we've taken Szoboszlai out, you miss the energy so much that I can completely understand why he's continually being picked to start, especially to start and at the minute. And I feel a little bit like he's the one who's who's being asked to do a lot of donkey work this season. So yeah,
do you feel it's a bit thankless?
Yes, I do think it's a bit thankless, and I feel like I feel like he is not playing well. I'm not going to say he's playing well, but I think the things he's being asked to do are sometimes a little bit unheralded and then quite clear when he's not there. So what I was going to say, even before you sort of mentioned McAllister, was that I do think he's the classic midfielder you don't kind of notice on the telly, and even sometimes in the ground you're not quite sure what it is he's doing. But I think he's always in exactly the right place, and I feel like he hasn't been in exactly the right place, certainly for the last 2 games. These South American international breaks are wrecking us. One way that we have to somehow account for this. There's McAllister, there's Diaz, there's Núñez, there's Alisson, and each of them I think in the past has come back from one of these long trips not looking the same for a number of weeks. They're all really important players, so we do need to do. To be honest, I think the wider picture is that we still need a midfielder actually, and obviously it's not controversial to say that, although sometimes it feels like it is halfway through a season. But the club have literally spent time and attempted to spend lots of multiple million, hundreds of millions on midfield players, because there is a gap there, and I think you can kind of see it at the moment. And not that I'm saying we should replace McAllister, because I think he's one of those players that every manager who he's ever played for has him as kind of first or second name on the team sheet. But I think that he's looking like, since this last international break, that he's defensively to be in the right place, a few yards behind where he needs to be, and it's sort of putting big holes in the ship everywhere else. I do think there's a bit of. I mean, I'm not the wider thing about how the rest of the season's going to go. I'm not. I'm certainly not kind of getting carried away, and I'm in a strange place where I can kind of see, when people are talking about the criticisms that people have got, or the predictions, the gloomy predictions that other fans have got for other teams' fans have got for Liverpool, and kind of see what they mean. I feel like I've just sort of I don't want to do more than a note of caution, though. I'm just a bit concerned, really, that against Chelsea and against Arsenal and against Brighton, I feel like all of those first halves we were kind of lucky to be where we were. One goal down against Brighton, 1-1 against Arsenal, and 1-0 up against Chelsea.
2-1 down against Arsenal.
Were we 2-1 down at half time? Sorry, 2-1 down at half time. Oh yeah, they scored just before half time, don't they? So yeah, I'm just a bit concerned, really, that there's obviously something there where each of those very good managers have spotted something and made something work, and not for the bounce of a ball, the rub of the green, we didn't manage to be sort of punished in a way that we could be. Now it's like everything, isn't it? It's the same thing last season where we were saying we can't keep going 1-0 down and winning. It's like you either stop going 1-0 down or you stop winning. So it's the same thing. We can't keep seeding an entire half, which that might be a bit harsh, but I feel like we definitely need to do something, one or two things. But it's interesting what we do. So what we do is like you say. You mentioned Szoboszlai, and I've written him down as well. In terms of summing up what Liverpool do, it's all heart. Slot says after the game he could have made 8 substitutions. He doesn't make any. They just have a word with themselves, and like the sort of the thing people have talked about with the Quansah being taken off at Ipswich. But it's a shame for him. But they really what they needed to do was have a word with themselves and remind themselves that one of the things that football is a fight, a fight or a battle against your opposite number. And I felt like the midfield, there was Gravenberch does one. I mean, somebody mentions it before, but it is the blue touch paper moment is, I think it's a Stupinian on Trent in the far main stand Anfield Road touchline, and that's on about 52, and from there on, the crowd and the team are feeding off each other. I think the crowd maybe pick up on the fact that the team have come out. I certainly did picked up on that straight away, and then from there on, Szoboszlai goes through the lad. There's which is, I don't know. I thought it was good, but he could break the lad's ankle, to be fair. But it's in terms of the spirit being shown. Gravenberch wins a couple. They all seem to be on that side, and it's sort of it releases Salah to do what he does. I think we sort of win the battle in that right hand side for 10 minutes. Just to talk on the wider context again, because I've rewatched it this morning and it's actually amazing. We talked about how the weekend's results couldn't have gone better, but the way that went was there was the Trent thing on about 52. Szoboszlai was about sort of 5 minutes after that, 5-10 minutes after that, and a few others. And then, so I watched it on whatever it is that Richard Keys is on now, this morning, and so they flashed the goals up. So at that point, City go 2-0 down. So you can't hear it straight away, but then a couple of minutes later you feel that. Watching it again, I've got sort of goosebumps talking about what you can hear in the ground. That swells, and then I'm sure Slot doesn't know, but he does the subs then. So I think Szoboszlai has actually been part of what's. He's not taken off because he's rubbish, in my opinion. He's been part of what's got us to that point where those subs. I mean, and it's something I think Slot's done really well, and one thing I think he's done better than Jurgen did is the proactive substitution. So that's a great example. That none of those players are playing poorly for me, and then he does that just after City go 2-0 down. The crowd are up, and then 2-3 minutes later Liverpool score, and it's just bedlam.
Yeah, there's I think that what Szoboszlai offers Ian in that second half period is, as Adam says, is fight and heart. But the other thing that he offers, I think, is there's 2 or 3 instances between 55 and when he gets subbed where he just does some direct running.
Yeah.
And then I think that actually makes the sub for the manager easier when it's going to be Diaz, because he can almost go, the space here for this footballer's run into, that's worrying them. They're going to have to rearrange this, and I can just drop my best dribbler in. And he might have been thinking about it anyway. It might have always been the plan. It might have been his break class moment. But I think Szoboszlai, what he does a good job of is prefiguring that. He's suddenly there, he prefigures that, and then there's Diaz, and then I think the crowd know, everyone in the ground knows, right, this is what this is now. We're just all hands to the pump.
I think Szoboszlai's role since the beginning of the season, I think part of the problem with Szoboszlai at the moment is he's a very good looking lad, but he's not playing glamorous football. And it feels counterintuitive because the beginning of last season he was playing glamorous football, so he's like this, this
matinee idol.
Great hair, lovely beard.
So he needs Steve McMahon's head. That's what he needs.
He needs to be less attractive so he can just dig in and grind the game out, because his job is to arrive in the front three as the fourth runner very late on. So he's doing a lot of getting past the front three from the beginning of the season. That's clearly what's expected of him. But he's been asked to do a lot of graft, a lot of grinding stuff out, and a lot of the real dog work of the game, which doesn't feel right for the player that we thought he was at the beginning of last season. So I think we're judging him on who we think he is rather than what the manager's asking him to do. And we might be judging him on what Hungary are asking him to do, which is a different game altogether. But our manager wants him to do this, and he's doing it very well. So the fact that he is breaking those lines and we effectively become a 4-2-4 a lot of the time is perfect for Diaz dropping in. So Diaz, I thought the substitutions at the weekend were the bravest, most intelligent, most sensible, most effective substitutions I've seen for ages, because to bring on a midfielder and an attacker and take 2 midfielders off, but it not turn into like the panic we had at Forest where we just went all out attack. The whole thing was more reasoned. It wasn't calm by any stretch of the imagination, but there was more measure to it, more intent and more purpose. So the fact that you had Diaz, and I've seen people describing it as a 4-4-2 and a 4-4-2 diamond, and I thought it was a 4-2-4. I thought it was very much get the 4 lads running at them. And I thought it worked absolutely brilliant. But it does return to something Adam was saying a second ago that I completely agree with. We need at least 1 more body in January, possibly 2, because we're down to the point where we've got 5 midfielders that we trust, and we're asking them to go again and again and again. So McAllister and Szoboszlai, we're asking them to go again all the time. So McAllister doesn't look great at the weekend, and that's because the work he's putting in. It's the amount of distance he's covered. Gravenberch.
If he picks up an injury in the next game, you wouldn't be surprised. I feel like he's playing in the red, but he has to play. So that's the sort of situation you want to avoid.
I'm going to ask you for a Leverkusen team, and I wouldn't have a minute. Go on.
If he picks up an injury in the next game, it'll be a month-long injury. It's not going to be a simple couple of games out. So we're asking them to go again, and Gravenberg has already played more football this season than he's played in probably the last 3 seasons put together. And so he can't keep going. We need a
just have a
Zuba
week
for
off.
instance.
I mean, he didn't play the midweek game against Brighton, didn't even travel.
No,
watched it at home. He was out for his dinner.
He was watching in the restaurant.
Yeah.
Which is brilliant. I love that fact. But you can't ask them to keep going. We do need a body, maybe 2 bodies. We're down to the point where we put Diaz on as
you say that about Declan Rice?
midfielder. Yeah, I think Declan Rice is looking,
Because I think we have this thing
he
where
doesn't look effective.
But we talk about, for instance, City have only ever got 16, 17 players and everyone bangs on like they haven't. So those lads do go again and again through the season, and they've had the success that they've had whilst doing that. I think the manager would say he'd rather...
And we are now playing a slower game in the way that they do.
And I think the manager would possibly say he'd rather, like, for instance, Gravenberg's just got his week off. I think the manager might say he'd rather have his football players playing football, learning the position, getting the information going from there. I think he'd love a week's training with them. That's a different conversation. And I think that if Arteta, Guardiola and Klopp, and probably every manager right now could be sat down and be told, we're going to give you 10 days of no game, but you've got the lads for the duration and you can do what you want with
Everyone's going sound.
Everyone would be delighted, but that's different, isn't it?
It is different, but you know, I'm like the world's eternal optimist, so I'm kind of like, I don't see problems coming. But at the moment, we have 6 attackers. We've only got 4. 2 are injured at the moment and we don't know when they're coming back. But we just used one in midfield and it worked brilliantly. But we just feel a little bit short.
So I think we're short. I would like to see...
And Endo was great when he came on as well.
I'd like to see a midfielder add... My argument isn't don't add a midfielder, and please don't start saying that on the internet. I very much think Liverpool should add another midfielder. And in general, you can always talk me into having another attacker. My point is more in conversation with the teams that we're going up against. You know, I think Brighton might have more players of approximately the same level, i.e. the same level as each other than we do.
Yeah.
But I think we probably got as many players of the same level as each other as Arsenal, as even Chelsea, if we put aside the lads who were out on loan and so on. You know, you end up sort of talking yourself into, Christ, we need another 5 players at any given moment in time, and then you look at what everyone else is, and it's a bit like, well, they're doing it with that. You know, what's the reason? You just want more players. I can tell by looking at you.
I want more players. Yeah.
But Liverpool have tried to sign one, haven't they?
Yeah, and I'm all in for.
So
if they'd have bought Zubimendi, they, for instance, would have had a 22-man squad, plus a third goalkeeper, plus Morton or Endo, I suspect, plus I think one other player to be bouncing around somewhere. So they'd have had 2 11s, if you see what I mean.
Yeah,
that gets you.
Which is clearly what he's looking for.
Well, that's what they wanted.
It's not far off, but then, you know. It's until everyone starts leaving for free, and then you have to.
Well, there's that bit to come on down in it. And I think the other part of this conversation is you've barely seen Elliott and you've barely seen Chiesa.
Yeah, I was going to mention
that's actually
Elliott.
what we're talking about here to an extent.
But we don't know if we're going to see Chiesa at the moment. I mean, we're all a little bit scarred by Thiago the last couple of years.
I'm a little bit scarred by the fact that I don't know if we're going to see Elliott. Elliott now feels like one where, to quote an old Adam line, is that he's been out for 4 weeks for
the last 8 weeks.
For 9 weeks. And I quite like him back. Anyway,
and he was supposed to be back the last international break.
Yeah.
And clearly hasn't been.
Yeah. Abigail, the subs. We'll do them in order. First is Joe Gomez. I mean, let's be clear, Canate, I think, has a perfectly good first half, but Gomez was excellent second half.
Unbelievable. I mean, obviously I didn't have any problem with Canate, but he come in as if he's been playing every game this season. He come in, he just slotted straight back in. But I don't know why there's that much of a surprise around that, because you think about the way Jürgen used him last season, and he had to fill in at left back, he had to go in the DM position, and he was sensational then, and we were all giving him his plaudits, and I'm actually quite surprised that he hasn't been utilised more by Slot in the way that he has. And to be honest, when the board went up and I found out Gomez was coming on, I thought, I feel a little bit sorry for Kwanzaa there. Obviously he makes 2 mistakes midweek, but I did think to myself, is that going to knock the young lad's confidence or whatever? And then you see Gomez win all his duels. Unbelievable performance from him there for 45 minutes, and you understand why Slot's made that decision. But then I'm thinking to myself, why has he not made this decision more often? I mean, I all summer was thinking we definitely need a centre-back. I mean, and I still probably do think next summer we probably will. Hopefully Virgil signs his contract, but, you know. But when you've got Gomez there, and he's so versatile in so many different ways.
I wonder if he doesn't speak up for himself enough.
Possibly.
I would. It's almost like he needs a fan that's been watching him for his whole career to tell Klopp or Slot, by the way, he's a brilliant centre half. I know, like, he's been a good utility man, but there was times just after he broke his leg at Burnley, where I think he was fullback that day, I was saying we should never play him at fullback again because it's such a shame to miss out on centre half Joe Gomez, and we sort of haven't seen it since then. Whenever that was, 2019.
No, he plays the league season, so we get to the league season, and then he gets the injury. So he's playing centre back when he gets the injury when he's off on England duty. So he's been playing centre back with Virgil at the start of that season. Virgil gets his injury, so he gets himself in 1920. Then he gets that, and then that goes on. And then when we come back to start the following season, they're getting Virgil back to full fitness. They're getting Matip back to full fitness, and Gomez basically doesn't get many games at centre back that year, and then from there's where you got all the
that's what I mean
stuff.
Though at some point it's 2021,
which is some time ago, Adam. We're different men.
Well, it's 2020 really, isn't it? It's the late 2020, early 2021, and since then somebody needs to have been speaking up. Somebody needs to have been in Joe Gomez's corner to say, never mind, just I'll play, because he loves the club and he loves playing. Obviously, I think all players feel like that. I was thinking about when we talked about Szoboszlai before. They don't mind doing the donkey work. They don't mind being out of position. They just want to play, don't they? And so I can understand from Gomez's point of view, thinking, I've been getting back from injuries. I'll do bit parts, this and that, and then events happen and it never quite comes through. But I just felt like you could see him grasping that opportunity and say he's not somebody who does speak up for himself. I really feel like there might be something in it, but he lets his performance do the talking.
You wonder how we were so willing to sort of let him go in the summer because he doesn't travel for first game of the season because it was at Newcastle that he was in talks with. I think it was Newcastle. And you think, how are we letting that go when you watch performances like that yesterday? And I was literally saying we do need another centre back. And then you've got Joe Gomez right there, longest serving player at the club now, isn't he? He's got to that point, and then he throws in a performance like that yesterday.
I was actually excited. Sorry, Ibu. I was excited to see a bit of Virgil and Gomez when we thought Ibu had dislocated his collarbone or whatever, and then obviously Konate's come out and said it's not serious, so we probably won't get to see it. And it's a bit of me. I mean, careful what you wish for. Obviously, I'm saying that people recovering from injuries is a good thing. Let me just say, people recovering from injuries quicker than expected is a good thing. But yeah, it would. I'd love to to reignite that one day.
Gomez.
Stunning. It does feel like we've only seen 2 years of him playing centre back out of the decade that he's been at the team. It's ridiculous to think that he was signed by Brendan Rodgers. That just feels like that's
lifetime.
That's an epoch in it. It's empires have fallen in that time.
How old was Brighton's manager at that point?
The rule by which all things must be aged.
Just as a senior school.
Doing his GCSEs.
That's ridiculous. That makes me feel so bloody old as well. I saw the news this morning that Konate's just soft tissue damage and he's going to be back for Leverkusen. I was like, I'll just let Joe have a run out.
I think he might do that.
I think he should. I wouldn't be upset if it was Konate and Joe, because we've seen Gomez come in and play the left-hand side to cover for Virgil before he could give Virgil a night off. He was absolutely fantastic. And the fact that he had two headers on target in the first 5 minutes, the goal's coming. This is going to be the most ironic thing ever. Well, he's getting his goal now.
The second one was a 2-1. That was the near post corner header. It was that 2-1. I thought if that had gone 3-1, that ground would have been, people would have ended up on the pitch. I was like, this feels like it's a public order issue. I'm waiting to happen if he scores.
I feel like I've got I'm sort of want to make the perfect moment now. I really don't want him to score a consolation goal. Imagine if he scores his first goal, we're already 4-0 down to someone. Joe scored. Oh.
He needs to score the goal that wins the league.
Yeah, well, that one, the 3-1 or a 1-0 or a 1-1. I'll have any of them.
I think if he'd have scored the one to make it 3-1 in this one, it would have been absolutely perfect. I don't want a League Cup one. I don't want a long shot. I don't want a deflection. I don't want it to come after someone shouted shoot. I think this is an important rule. I do not want it to come after someone shouted shoot. Abigail Curtis Jones came off, sets up Salah. I just thought, again, in terms of, we talked about Szoboszlai showing all heart and a bit of direct running, times that by 10 for Curtis Jones, and also a ton of quality. I thought he was great.
Yeah, he'll absolutely put his body everywhere, and I think that's something that he's lacked. Like I said before, I've felt as though he's took too long on the ball at times throughout the season, and I feel as though he's sort of eyeing that out of his game. He looks up straight away and he just knows where he's going to pass it, and it feels as though he knows the game plan already. He's been sat on that bench waiting for his opportunity to come on and have a part in that, and obviously it's all heart, isn't it? He loves playing for Liverpool, and you can see that. yeah, he was absolutely brilliant, and he's involved in everything. And going forward, he's becoming a real force for us. And I think it's given the manager proper, not problems at midfield, because I think it might be a problem. It might be a problem solved when you look at the way McAllister's putting a performance in, or Szoboszlai. I think the answer might be there in Curtis Jones to sort of get the midfield sort of going forward a little bit better. Because I think he come on and he made a massive difference there, to be honest. And yeah, I was made up that he had his part in the goal as well.
I thought he was absolutely excellent. The pass he has in the goal is, he's picking up in our own area, isn't he? And he's driving forward, moving it on, but he's also releasing the ball just on the edge of being tackled. So perfect timing for him, and he's becoming a different player. For a lad who started off as a left winger, I think he was to start off with, and had all that attack and flair, which we then kind of ironed out of him, trying to turn him into Gini Wijnaldum. He's now somebody who can sit perfectly alongside Gravenberch as a holding midfielder, with the energy and the physical ability to keep hold of the ball. He keeps hold of the ball brilliantly. I mean, he's always had that in his game, that little turn where he'll shield the ball and move it on. But he's becoming more and more intelligent as a footballer, and it's great to see it come off.
And more final third impact.
More final third impact, yeah. He's getting through the lines, isn't he? And again, that could be the change of system. And he did say very early in the season that he likes the way that Arne Slot wants to play because it gives him more time with the ball, and he didn't think he was getting that time with the ball previously.
He's in this move where the double substitution, it's Diaz who comes on as well. Adam, I think Diaz is actually ironically slightly less eye-catching, but I think what he really does is he occupies Brighton. Brighton are suddenly really concerned about what's going on behind them. Brighton are still trying to play 4-4-2 at this point. There's two lads in midfield, neither of them's Belieber. The centre-back, Igor, he goes that side. Igor doesn't want to come with him. He's got no interest in being pulled that far out of his defence. Neither of the Brighton centre-mids want to drop that far back. So they just end up, Brighton, a little bit pulled out of shape. Everything's a constant compromise. He's no one's job, which means he's really helping to impact.
Yeah, it's actually what they were doing to us in the first half. And there's similarities with the goal, that Salah's goal. It's the same part of the pitch where the space is. Obviously, both brilliant finishes as well. But I think that's what Diaz does, and he's a really he's another one who does a thankless task at times. When we were in the depths of everything at the back at the arse end of last season, Diaz and Robertson were showing up on that side. And he can hold up an end. He can hold it up on his own. And I think that it's so usually I would say that would be the player that you'd start, but he's an interesting one to bring on. I think in my mind he usually is the kind of starter, and you're getting the energy, you're getting all the wind out of the opposition's legs with him, and then maybe you bring somebody on if he hasn't been as effective. Sometimes he's not as effective in front of goal. So yeah, but he does a really interesting thing, and I think maybe it's the same. The other way round, actually, for Curtis, I would say that maybe shows that the selection for Arsenal was wrong. I think probably I would have done what we did against Brighton and started Szoboszlai and brought Curtis on. I feel like that was the wrong way round in terms of legs. I would have preferred to have seen Szoboszlai's legs and then Curtis's guile coming on against Arsenal.
I think against Arsenal that was the wrong position for Curtis because we were playing him that bit further forward, weren't we?
Yeah. So yeah, it was. But it just, I don't know. It's just like something you couldn't paint. The everything built into that Salah goal. It's just an incredible Anfield moment in a weirdly Arne Slot way. It sort of feels like it was. It wasn't wild. It was built. I feel like there was building blocks towards that. It wasn't kind of a last minute. Jota's just tickled it over the line in the 94th minute kind of thing. It was building towards that, and then Liverpool do a great job after that of managing things and looking like there was for me there was no way that was going 2-2.
The second goal, the Salah goal, Abigail, Adam describes it as an Anfield moment, as a massive explosion. I think it was. The atmosphere was unbelievable for the period leading up to, and then immediately afterwards, it was then a matter of seeing Liverpool hold on. But he's made special moments, big goals his thing. I think there's so many. You go through his Liverpool career, even some have got lost in the post. There's one to make it 2-1 against Tottenham, and then there's a penalty up the other end that turns it into 2-2. He gets his one to make it 2-1 when the ground's a fairness and it's injury time. He scores the goal that he thinks mean Liverpool win the league in 21-22 against Wolves. He makes it 2-1. and it's only then that we all discover that City have gone 3-2. My point here is to say that there's so many Salah moments. There's this set of forgotten ones. The ground's up, the atmosphere's up, cometh the hour, and there he is. And it's been so often, it's mind-boggling to think of how often it's needed to be there. You've been calling for it, and then there's Mo Salah, and this was another one.
Yeah, he's always there for the big moments for us, and like you've said, some of them are very forgotten, but this is one that I definitely won't forget after that let off in the ground, to be honest. And I feel as though the way the atmosphere went sort of carried him on to have the confidence to go for it. Like, he's put on his social media how special it is to score at Anfield for all of us, but I feel as though the crowd had a part to play in that. I do feel as though Annie Rhodes was blowing it in, the cop was sucking it in, but it takes Mo Salah's brilliance and confidence to be able to put that ball in there. And like you've said, it all of these moments that have happened, and I just hope that he can stay. And the crowd, the excitement for Mo, honestly, was unbelievable. Same for Gakpo. I honestly think that definitely started from Trent having that argument, to be honest. It definitely went from there. That riled us all up, and I feel like, I don't know, Mo's like a superhero. Once the crowd gets up, he absorbs that power and that energy of Anfield. That soaks into him, and all of a sudden, because you see in the first half a few times, do you know what, he does it all the time. He'll try and sit players down like he used to, and he hasn't done it a few times, but that was a moment that sort of shown us at 32 he can still be part of those big moments. He can still win us big games. He can still go on and beat all of these records, by the way. And I just feel as though that goal and his social media post was a massive thing to say, let me stay and I want to be a part of this no matter what.
He does the thing which I think the first time, it's not the first time, the one that you remember first and foremost is the City away in 2018. He'd done it before then, but he does the thing where he looks at the crowd. He just stares at the crowd, just opens his eyes, looks at the crowd after what he's done. And I'd love to know what he sees more than anything. That's the one question I'd like to ask him. Like, what does he take in that moment? What's his impression of it? Because it's more than once. I always remember I was talking about Southampton away in 2019 after he scores, and the way he stares at the end all the way through as he's going past them. I think he loves getting that visual confirmation of the thing he's just done. Like, I've just made all these people react like this. I think it. And I love that for him. I love that about him. I love the fact that I think he does have the genuine sense of communion with the crowd in those moments here. And it was just another one. But to say just another one feels like you're talking it down. No,
you can never say just another one about anything he's done. This will sound a weird comparison. I've just come off a month of the play at the Royal Court, and there's a moment at the end of the main show where we cut to black and the audience really just goes off. And what I've done, because I've been in about 20 times to see it, I just sit and let it happen around me. So I don't applaud, I don't get up, I just sit and let this darkness and this scream happen. And that's in about 300 people most nights. If you're doing that in front of, what does the cop hold now?
About 12,000.
About 12,000.
Yeah.
That, how does a normal human being feel? It's to have that, to look at that, to just bathe that in, and know that, as you said, to know that you've done that. You've given those people that joy. Those people adore Mo Salah. Everybody who's looking at him loves him unconditionally in that moment. What on earth does that feel like? That must be indescribable. So
someone needs to make him describe it.
Yeah.
By the way,
you can say it's describe much in general, though, does he?
I think Mo's doing more and more interviews, and I just want someone to do, like, ask him the question. What does that feel like? Then when he answers it, say no, and then I'll ask him it again to make him say it a bit differently, and then say no, but when you said this, what do you actually like? Let's try and will somebody please try and make him describe it?
You basically need half an hour with him for just this one question.
Yeah,
at the little coffee bar, the training ground.
Gladly. Yeah. What about this time though, Mo?
I'm just going to show you this goal now. How did that one feel? Yeah. It's got to be. He's at the peak of what football is. He's. I've just done the bacon bussing. We were talking about Mo on it, and there is no player outside Kenny Dalglish who's ever given me as much pleasure as Mo Salah has. That's what we're on now. 54 years of watching football. Nobody other than Kenny, and Kenny's special because Kenny comes in when I'm 13, and that's my idol. I don't have heroes. I'm too old to have heroes. Kenny's my hero and Kenny will always be my hero. But Mo is as good as anyone I've ever seen. My dad will have been gone 10 years this weekend. He was 79 when he passed away. He'd seen everybody from Lidl onwards. He said in his last couple of years, he said Luis Suarez was the best player he'd ever seen play for Liverpool. I think Mo, over the time he's been here, is ahead of Louis in terms of how long he's done it for and what he's done. Whereas Luis Suarez was the best player in the world for about 6 months. Mo's been in the top 3 for 7 years. And it's just, he's unbelievable. And that goal, that was the Mo Salah goal. If you asked to describe a Mo Salah goal, that's the one you describe.
I was going to say that. He's brought it back.
Yeah. And we've not seen it for a while.
Well, he scored it twice now recently, but I wonder whether that's something to do with the way the team's playing, that space is there, or defenders have stopped it.
To the left is there
he's a little bit more central when he runs in rather than where he's been, and he would have had to take it round 2. But yeah, it's interesting that it seems to be back. I like it. I'm very much enjoying it being back. But the celebration wise, I just think it's the situation. He does, as you said, it's City away, the goals where the United at home. I think he's looking at us because he's saying, yeah, I know the opportunity is there. We can see it. Everybody's feeling it, and he doesn't say it.
Yeah,
players wouldn't say it, would they? Because they don't want to make it out, put it out in the open.
He said it
on his Instagram.
But he said it there. He said that's what his celebrations are, and I think it's more. I think it's because he knows the celebrations are wilder when it's there. It doesn't, It's not like you're scoring an overhead.
He knows that we know.
Yeah, you could score the most spectacular overhead kick in the world, and everyone isn't going mad if it's April and you're 10th. If you're scoring in early November to put us top.
That felt like the Man United shirt off goal.
To be honest, but the way the goals went in, it felt like the last day of the season. It might have been, as I say, because I was watching that weird beIN Sports coverage with them showing the goals. But it did feel like, we're cutting there, and it cuts back to Anfield and it's crackling. I think
the whole thing. I think that's the part of the whole day that there is a weirdness about the day. For instance, the ground was really empty at 2:45. But the reason why was because everyone was still in the pub watching the Arsenal game, and then making the way. So because the Arsenal game, it was a game you didn't want to take your eyes off. I did. I walked up a little bit early, and that's why I was in oddly early for me. But it was a game you didn't want to take your eyes off. The Arsenal game. Will Newcastle hold on? If that's gone 3-0 to Newcastle, the ground's at full earlier. If that's gone 2-0 to Arsenal, the ground's full earlier. If Arsenal just equalise, I think the ground fills up. But everyone's hung on to watch that, and then because there is a literal thing. Like the first thing that happens is that there's a really sound fella who sits diagonal left to me, who at the point it went 1-1 showed me his phone, like Bournemouth have gone 2-0. And it had that energy of, this is it, everything's marrying together. I think Salah is responding to that. The contract question is there. It's there in the social media post on top of the other stuff as well. The whole thing is therefore a little bit of a balancing act. I think we'll never want to see him go. I think that this is really worth sort of emphasising. We'll never want to see him go, and a day will have to come. I just don't think it needs to be now. And that's sort of like there will be an end to Liverpool and Mo Salah. I also just, if we're getting into this and this season's moving the way in which it looks like it's moving, I don't want another long goodbye. I just don't want another long goodbye for any of them. I especially don't want it for him. I feel as though it will actually become, we talked earlier on about feeling as though the emotional drag of Klopp at the end of last season was there. I don't think we need an emotional drag with Salah. I genuinely don't, and I think it should filter into decisions that finance people are making, because the glory, the point of this all is the glory, But let's even just say that it shouldn't, even though I don't agree with that. It's still going to be there, and to me it's so important, I think, to get at least one more year out of him at this point in time. I think it'd be great for the football club. I think it's what he should want. I think it'd suit him to build into the next World Cup at Liverpool. I think one more year all around, I think it just seems like a ton of sense. I suspect I'll be saying in 1 year's time, and I think one more year would make a ton of sense, and that is my one sort of word of warning.
I've said for years that I feel like he's one of them players who'll play till he's 40. I think he's. I'm not sure about the top level, but I think he'll play till he's 40, and I think he's that sort of physical athlete. I feel that there probably isn't maybe enough fury around it, because as long as I think it's because we're winning. So as long as we're winning, that the drag that you talk about of a long goodbye sort of doesn't rear its head. There's a few things this season where I worry about what might crop up, and I think the contract is one of them. I think the City court case is another one where, for all sorts of reasons, that might end up properly sort of fouling things up. I think as the season drags on for everybody, not just for Liverpool.
I agree.
And I'm concerned about some of the ramifications of that. The contract thing, I think, specifically for Salah. When people were reacting with whatever the word is, a bit of dismay around what he's saying on social media, it's actually a better thing than he said on the pitch at Old Trafford, because he said, "This is my last season." Yeah, he said that in September. He said, "This is my last season at the club." He's not saying that now, so I do feel like there's something there. But I am furious at the club for not being more urgent about it, and maybe that there's two parties. I mean, there's however many, if you add Trent and Virgil's people into it as well, there are parties, and I can understand that people wanted to maybe have a look at the new project, but I feel like that is maybe me making a bit of an excuse for some people, and I just don't think there's zero hiding place for certainly for the Virgil contract and the Salah contract. I just don't see any reason for us not to be saying to them whatever. I mean, maybe it's a thing about length of contract for both Virgil and Salah. I would say give it them. If they're saying 3 years and the club's saying 1, I'd say, sorry, the clock's ticking. We cannot lose these two for nothing. Give them 3 years. That's what I would say. The other side of it possibly is that we are in a sticky situation with other players because of Salah's last contract. I just think he wants to be here, and I still can't really think of where else he goes. Which was the main thing summer before last, when we were talking about it looking likely that he was leaving. I just didn't really see the destination, and I still kind of don't. So whether that makes it a stronger bargaining position for the club or Salah, I'm not sure. But I just think I cannot think of an excuse sporting wise for this not to happen, and I think it will. Having said that, I think Salah and Virgil will happen.
I got a DM on Twitter when I put Mo on my story, that post that he put saying, "Oh, I can't believe this is clearly the start of his goodbye." And I just did not see that Instagram post like that at all. I seen that as part of Mo's bargaining. He's saying how much he wants to be here, how much he loves being at Liverpool. He wants to break all the records. That's the thing. He's up there in the charts now, and he's probably thinking 3 more seasons, and I can go even higher than what people are saying at the minute. And I just do not see it as a goodbye. And what he said on the pitch at Old Trafford as well, where he was like, "This might be my last season," I was literally think that was just him saying, right now the fans can put pressure on the club. But when you look at it from an FSG point of view, the way they work things, I just cannot see them giving like an over £300,000 a week contract to someone who's 32, no matter how good he is. And I know Mo can go until he's 40. He's got the physique of Ronaldo where he can. But I just do not see the way in which the club work them doing that. I honestly think they'd more likely give it to Trent, but I feel like out of the 3 of them, Trent's probably the one that's gone. Virgil said he wants to play for Liverpool for 2-3 more years. I think Mo and Virgil are bang on to stay, but I think if in terms of how the club work things, I honestly think they'd rather hand that over 300 grand to Trent. So I don't know, but I can just definitely see that this is how Mo's going to play it now. Mo's going to play it to go for the fans, and then we'll end up shouting and screaming until we give him what he wants, really.
I think from his tweet, I think it's very definitely a come and get it, come and get me, sort this now. I want to stay, sort it now. I love this place. I'll never forget what it's the whatever happens next.
No
it's kind of like
happens,
no matter what happens next has nothing to do with me. I can't control it. Come and sort it. I think from an FSG side of things, I think renewing Mo Salah at 350 grand a week is good business, because they're in the portfolio market, and the portfolio market is based on the value of your portfolio, and Mo Salah increases the value of your portfolio just by being there and by winning things. At the moment, he is, I've got this up and it keeps going off my phone, thank you, the phone. He is 8 behind Billy Liddell in the all-time goal-scoring records.
Liddell's got no chance.
Mo will take...
He needs to stop banging them in, Billy.
Mo's going to take Billy by the end of January. Gordon Hodgson's only 21 ahead of him now. So
Hodgson's third.
yeah, Roger Hunt's 285. So 3 seasons he could possibly do Sir Roger, but
What's Salah on now, all comps?
220 all comps.
So let's just add 16 to the end of this season. So if he was to do a 2-year extension, he could get interested in doing
276. He could get close to Roger Hunt, and that is what he'll want.
Do you reckon he's gutted when he sees Rushy around the club, Mo? Do you reckon he looks at Rushy like, fucking hell, lads, what are you doing here?
I think
you taking the pens at half time? Are they including that?
Rushy's just wandering around going, it's not going to happen, you know.
I didn't even take pens, by the way, Mo.
It's an excellent point that Rushy should be making at every opportunity, didn't it? Yeah, Rushy's success rate on pens was 50%. All right then. We're going to be live in Glasgow on November the 16th. You can find stuff on the anfieldwrap.com/TAW live. It's afternoon efforts. We'll be all home and hosed, I think, by 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. My God, we won't know ourselves. So the 16th of November, Glasgow, at something called the Record Factory. And I'm really looking forward to it indeed. Some book chat and then a full Anfield Wrap live show. Do get yourself down to that if you can. The anfieldwrap.com/TAW live. And we're just going to be hanging around Gravity Max before the game against Leverkusen on Tuesday afternoon. That is now tomorrow afternoon. So get yourself down to Gravity Max if you want to meet up and say hello. Be other people around there as well. Obviously, central for the city too. Upstairs in Gravity Max. If you've got the opportunity to pop in and see us, that'd be very, very nice indeed. Leverkusen. It is Leverkusen next. There's going to be a lot of Xabi Alonso chat in our near future, Ian. In the league, they played 9, won 4, drawn 4 and lost 1, which is good but not great in comparison to last season when they were obviously ever so good. But in Europe, they played 3, won 2, drawn 1. I'd expect them to be passive and cagey. I'd expect them to have the attitude of there's nothing wrong with a draw in this one, but looking to see if they can pick Liverpool off. Pick me a team. What are you doing? Who would you pick?
It's a hard one, isn't it? Because, you know, talking before about we're asking them to go again, It's Monday morning, we're still talking about the weekend, they're concentrating on tomorrow night. It's a very... That Saturday to Tuesday feels a much quicker turnaround. It feels... Because I thought it was a Wednesday game this week, so looking at it yesterday, it was kind of like, oh, Jesus, it's actually Tuesday, isn't it? Goalie picks himself, obviously. Trent, I'd like to see Joe Gomez, Virgil...
Can you not make a Conor Bradley argument?
I could make a Conor Bradley argument. I like the way he brought him out the weekend and decided he was actually using him as a right winger, which obviously clopped it a few times. Could make a Conor Bradley argument. That would preserve him a bit. I don't know how fit Conor is to get a whole game in at the moment, though. But you could start him and sub him, but I think he's more likely to come on later. I'd like to see Robbo at left back because we haven't gotten touching on the fact that I thought the Simicast could have dealt with Brighton's goal twice in the same move and didn't. Yeah. I thought he was very much at the scene of the crime.
I thought Ali would have saved it. Is that harsh?
No.
Yes.
No.
It did go in off the post.
Andy's pulling a face which makes me think he thinks he would have done.
Do you?
I don't know about that.
It's just positioning.
It goes in off the post.
So. It's the position.
It'd have possibly been a foot to the right, wouldn't he? Just a step there, yeah. Midfield's the hard one. I think Curtis starts. I wouldn't be shocked if Endo started.
Yeah, I think the same.
Really?
I think Endo might go in instead of Gravenberg, to be honest.
So he goes Endo and Curtis and then Szoboszlai.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
Yeah, Andy's pointed out Keller gets a slight touch on the Brighton effort. So yeah, maybe Alisson would have saved it. Go on.
And then the front three, Diaz, Núñez, Salah. And I think that's it. We are so... we are lacking options in areas at the moment, so it does kind of pick itself. I think it's just the rotation of Diaz and Gakpo to keep them fresh. And again, we haven't talked about how good Núñez was at the weekend. I thought he had a really good game. He's playing a different game of football at the moment, and he's doing it very effectively.
Cool, calm and collected from Núñez, I'd say. Yeah, he's ironed out that Captain Chaos out of himself, hasn't he? And he's sort of, I think, whatever Arne's doing with him, I'm enjoying it. He is a lot better in that way, and it doesn't look like he's overthinking it when he's in front of goal either.
Tons of meditation.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I think I'm probably the same as you. I think probably see Jones and Endo maybe coming in that midfield. That's what I'd do, but I don't know if Arne's as willing to make that many changes. Maybe I think I would. I'd probably go for it. I think it's confusing, this Champions League layout. I think we need, 16, 17, 18, something like that to try and get it over the line. So my thought is, a lot of people are like, oh, well, you don't know how important it is. But my idea is, well, you win them all until you get to that point, and then we can relax after that, and that's when it doesn't matter. I'm not in the mindset of, oh, it won't be the end of the world if we don't win that one. I'm the opposite. I think let's just get all of them and get over the line in that to try and get the top 8. So maybe he won't make as many changes. We are so lucky on that left side between Diaz and Gakpo. Both of them performing on a high level now. I think Diaz has finally stepped himself up a little bit now. I think Diaz will come in, even though I probably do enjoy Diaz coming in off the bench as a little bit more of a threat. When I see Diaz is coming off the bench, I think, right, this could change things. When I see Gakpo, sometimes I don't think he can have the same impact as an impact player. So, but yeah, I think I'm pretty much the same as you in that way.
I think I'd start Gakpo actually, but it's a toss-up really, and I wouldn't be surprised or disappointed if it's Diaz and then Gakpo coming on. And really, it's just in terms of who I feel like maybe could do with a bit of a breather, which is Trent and McAllister. So
yeah, I'd start Bradley. I think if you could, I'd start Bradley in this one, just because I think you want to be all systems go for Villa. And I think it's now become such a big game on the Saturday night.
Yeah, there's enough time, isn't there, between Tuesday night and Saturday night? But yeah, and I think, as Abby was just saying, I think Slot's attitude is very similar to what you were just saying. He said before the Brighton game in the Cup, I don't think it's ever a good idea to not want to win a game. And I feel like sometimes once you've qualified in the Champions League, I don't know about this new format, but that was when things become a bit sticky. Like, you know, you stuck between stools about who to pick, and I hate dead rubber selections. Feels like you still want to pick a strong team and keep the momentum going, but people start playing less than 100% and picking up knocks. So it's easier when it's simple. So this is a big game, I think. It's a big game against a really good team. They were a bit lucky to have been unbeaten all last season. They kept scoring last-minute winners, didn't they? So
last-minute equalisers,
last-minute winners. So I think I expect Liverpool to take the lead, and I expect us to win actually. But I think that there is definitely something to think about the fact that they are such a late charge sort of a team, Leverkusen. But yeah, I think it's a big game, and I think you'll pick a really good team, and I think Liverpool will win.
I think part of the reason why I might go with Diaz to bring Gakpo on is I think he'll think it's cleaner to bring Gakpo on for Nunez. Like, I think that, for instance, both Diaz just started the weekend. I think both Diaz and Salah are getting 90 in this, and I think Nunez will be the one who he replaces as the game wears on, unless he's going to do his sort of 4-4-2 thingy where neither of them actually plays.
He has talked about how much football Nunez has played after not starting much.
Yeah, I think that you'll see it possibly that way around, and I think it is interesting with the wider format. I think it'll be a really good game. I'm really looking forward to it, despite the fact that there's going to be a tumultuous amount of Xabi Alonso chat. I almost just feel as though that's a little bit of circus. The bit that matters is that it's a big.
He's yesterday's man, Neil.
Yeah. He's out past now, doesn't
He's rubbish
matter.
now.
That's sorted out.
Never wanted him anyway.
Big Champions League game at Anfield when Liverpool are flying. There is very, very few things better. Thank you very much indeed to Abby, to Ian and to Adam. And a big thank you to Peloton as well for coming on board with us across the next few months. Really looking forward to all of that and getting back on the bike. A huge thank you to Jordan Singleton looking after the images all the way through this. Andy Heaton for looking after the sounds. Liverpool are just on the march. You know it now. There's no argument. If there was any hiding places for anyone, they're long gone. And you know how you know it? Because Mo Salah looked you in the eye.